And when it was announced that Tata will build a car for $2,500, they all laughed. Then I talked to Bosch, and they produced some part of the engine, and they said, those guys are serious. They will do it, and they did it. Okay. And for the developed guys, pretty similar. They need to understand that not one size fits all. They need to find new ways into the market, and they need to make sure the needs are captured properly. So let's see. Okay, innovation. Okay, I already covered it a little bit by saying if there's no more labor, if there's no more additional resources and capital is available, you need to tap into innovation. Okay? And what we see here is the increase in R&D expenditure from Petrobras and Vale, for example. And if you look at how this is increased, and okay, I understand 2009 has been a difficult year, but I'm pretty certain you see that it's going to be picked up again. And this is in economies where people would say, oh, I mean, just putting some minerals out of the ground and putting some oil rigs somewhere and making sure it's put into a big tanker. What do you need to do? You need to do a lot, because innovation is not just about the tiny little top of the iceberg when it comes to innovation for the final product. Innovation is about new business models. Innovation is about better processes, better managerial styles. So all the innovation you see as purchasing professionals from your suppliers. So that is innovation. That is why companies like Petrobras and Vale, they invest so much money in R&D. So let's see for a minute if I get it right. Well, let's see for a minute what it means for the emerging market multinationals. They need to find a way in an organization that allows innovation. Innovation from all around the world, and it's not a trick, it's not an easy thing. And of course, they need to stay close to the consumers. That's an easy one. And they need to shape the national systems of innovation. I mean, where does it come from? You need to work with universities. You need to work with the leading academia. And not just in your home country, but all around the world. And they will be very thankful for this, and they will work together with you to invent the right things for your customers abroad. Okay, summarizing a little bit for what it means for the emerging market multinationals. They need to secure inputs, and the Chinese are masters in that. And we all need to learn from that, because it seems that just an open market doesn't work anymore. So there are different ways to make sure I'm getting the resources I need. And you're going to compete with other emerging market multinationals. You're not just going to compete with the Airbus and Boeings. Embraer will compete with the Russians and with the Chinese. And your heritage, staying close to your local customers. Make sure on your home turf you're going not to be attacked from somebody else entering it. And we already covered innovation and the balancing the global and local operating models. And it's a tricky thing. You can have HR run out of Argentina. You can have manufacturing in China. You can have the services and the call centers in India, but you need to manage this right. Yeah, because you still need to have the local guys that really know what your customers need, and that bring this innovation and make sure you hit what your customers want. Okay, so why are emerging, with all these risks, why are emerging market multinationals going to be successful? Because of three reasons. First is, and I truly believe in this, they have a completely different association with risk. Yeah? If you look at, shall I go into this, shall I not go into this? In Germany, people would think for years, shall I make this decision? Because people think they have something, they're afraid to lose it. Here in Brazil, people know there's always another day, the sun will rise tomorrow, let's go for it, let's take this risk. And then mastering the art of improvisation, that is something, again, in France or in UK or in the US, they can't do. I mean, on my flight here, I was reading an article of a German doctor being in Haiti, where they had the earthquake and now flooding and all the terrible stuff. And he said what he admires most in Haiti is how the people are able to improvise. He said there was a big accident with 50 people showing up at once, being delivered to the hospital. 50 people with really, really severe injuries. And this doctor said within 20 minutes, the 50 people would have been stabilized. They would have been classified according who needs the most support, who doesn't need that much support. And he said in a hospital in Germany, probably half of the people would have died because they would have done all their standard procedures and all their diagnostics. So the improvisation is so important, and applying what you have and make it better. And as I said, I stay in the Sheraton over there at the beach, and when I got there, the cab driver brought me there, and when I woke up and then Monday morning, I opened the curtain, and what happened? All cars going in that direction, and I remember they came in that direction the other day. So what happened? I mean, very interestingly, improvising, so same thing at Ipanema, Copacabana, you change directions of all lanes into one direction when it comes to traffic peaks. Amazing, really good. I mean, I lived in Hamburg for a few years, and we have one road that does it, one single road, and it's a nightmare, because police has to be there. There are all those signs saying, not now, never turn left after 5, and these kind of things. I don't know how it works here, but obviously it works. I lived in San Francisco for a while. They do it on the Golden Gate, but that's pretty simple. Okay, I mean, how you do it, I don't know how it works, but I saw that it works, so this is really good. Making more out of what you have and making sure you use the improvisation, something the developer guys are not very good at. And then, of course, making sure you understand the culture and not everything being equal and not one size fits all. I think I have a few more minutes. So what I would like to do now is I would like to, and these are some, if you like, personal slides. I would like to use what we've seen so far for the next 3-4 minutes to apply this for the purchasing professionals. So what does this mean for purchasing? So just 2 messages. First, sourcing is global, yeah? But the traditional globalization has come to an end. Again, I will explain in a minute. And when it comes to innovation, purchasing needs to strive and move away from price to value. And value comes from innovation. That is basically almost the only source of additional value that remains. Sourcing is global. Some people say the 19th century has been the British century. The 20th century has been the American century, and the 21st will be the Chinese. And this is not true. That's why I love this quote from this professor in Lausanne, because he says the 21st century must be, and it will be, a global one. It's not about a Chinese century. And if you look at how sourcing has been done in the past, it will be completely different in the future. You will source wherever there is the biggest innovation, wherever you have the best resources and the best talent. I love surfing, so I love to use slides with waves on it. And what you can see here, if you can see it, this guy has a big wetsuit on. So that's an American or European guy, very cold up there. But it's a nice wave, I must admit. So he's riding this wave, and the wave this guy is riding is the purchasing professional going from cheap to cheaper to the cheapest. I've lived in Portugal for half a year in 1988, working in a shoe factory. And by that, Portugal was almost too expensive. I said, this is crazy. This is crazy. People don't earn anything almost. Now this is too expensive. The companies already moved to Tunisia for assembly, and all the uppers already came out of China, out of India. Yeah? And now, a few years later, in the 90s, they all moved to Indonesia, to Vietnam, and to China. And now where are they going? Where are they going now? I mean, the cost went up of labor in China. The Chinese government tries to move production more inland, and they will succeed with that to some degree, but then logistics will become more complicated. And many companies already move out of China, and they go to Indonesia. They've been there before, now they go back to Indonesia, and then that's it. Maybe there's Africa is left, okay. But there is no way to go, and we've seen the statistics. The reason is because there are not additional people anymore. So where do you go next? Yeah, and that is where I say, stop looking for the cheapest. Look for the innovation part, because that will bring the next value. And what we see is that innovation is not just at one point. You see innovation in certain areas of the world. So you see centers of competence developing. Yeah, like biofuels or hydroelectrics in Brazil, or in South Korea, all the electronics and the circuits they do here. And again, most important for me, product innovation is only the tiny little piece, but it's about doing things better, having better operating models, having better supply chains, and working better with your customers, taking costs out of supply chain. That is when I said all these, qual é a sua última proposta? Esse demais carro, all these kind of things, forget it. Work with your suppliers, tap into their knowledge, tap into their innovation. That is where you will get the money from. So, what do you need to do? And that is the final slide, and we can go into discussions. You need to devote time as a purchasing professional and as a purchasing function. Because we all talk about innovation. Probably we can find slides that are 5 years old or 10 years old. People were talking about innovation, but nobody is doing it. You need to devote time, resources, and organizational structure. And yes, there are companies that say, innovation, that is my product development, that's R&D. Or like at Philips, they have a dedicated person that is, not sure if the title is Chief Innovation Officer, because CEO already exists, but it's a guy who is responsible for innovation. But purchasing will always play a role. It doesn't matter if R&D says, I'm here for innovation. It doesn't matter if you have a dedicated person. These people will never learn about your suppliers. They will never learn the things you know. So you need to listen to them and get the innovation. One nice example for me is the medical device industry. So you have the scissors and all the stuff to open your body, and the saws and the hammers and stuff you put into your bones and so on. It's a really interesting industry because their customers are the surgeons. And the biggest source of innovation are the surgeons. So they have departments. If I'm a surgeon, I can call Tyco, I can call Medtronics and say, I have an idea. I have an idea. They will listen. Now, in your company, I don't know how it is. But if someone is calling you and says, I have an idea, where should this person go to? So for most companies I know, it's a tricky question. But you should have someone. And the next point is moving away from the specification. I mean, that's an old mantra. But it's even more important today. I mean, move away from specification. Go to requirements. And once you're there, when you go from requirements, then go to issue. And when you're at issue, then please go to opportunities. Because typically, the suppliers are specialists in what they are doing. Why do you think you know it much better than those guys that do it for a living? Yeah? Ask them, talk to them. Don't do the RFP and say, okay, I want the answer back in 5 weeks and we are not allowed to talk. Don't do that. Third point, concepts like crowdsourcing. That goes a long way in this direction. So crowdsourcing is a concept probably you're aware of, and there's a lot of literature out there. It doesn't work for many categories, I know, but just embrace the concept, think about it, and just put out there your problem. I need something, and you don't even know who is going to answer. And some research firms do it quite well. That's the standard example. And I love the example because there are so many scientists sitting in Russia and in some other countries where they used to work for the government, and now they are unemployed or they have a lot of spare time. And they're going to work on your problem. And only if they found a solution, they will get the $100,000 or $50,000, whatever you want to pay them. Fourth point, the super supplier concept I really love. Yeah, I mean, Toyota is doing it. Think about it, doing it also. What a super supplier means is you have all the cost breakdown of your supplier and of your entire supply chain. Yeah. Then you go out and bid the suppliers, you visit the suppliers, you look at how they're doing it, and then you look at different cost components and you see, this supplier, when it comes to machinery, depreciation is much lower. So something this supplier does do right. When it comes to this raw material, it seems that this raw material is bought much cheaper at that supplier. When it comes to transportation, this guy would be the best. So you have 4 suppliers, and yes, one is the cheapest. But if you combine all the different pieces, then out of a sudden you would have a complete new supplier that's called a super supplier. And then you don't go to the one who is cheapest today. You go to the one who is most flexible and innovative and would like to work together with you so that in 1 or 2 years, this guy is there where you want him or her to be. And then last point, very personal point, I'm so fed up with all the suppliers coming to you saying, let's have a partnership, let's have a partnership. I mean, partnerships, even the office stationery guys come to you and say, I want to have a partnership with you. And next time somebody like this is coming to you, let's surprise the guy and say, what do you mean by partnership? Explain to me, what is the benefit to me? And then the person is going to explain. Some can do it, some can't. But even if they do a good job, then ask them, okay, how many partnerships do you have? Do you have it with all my competitors? Then I don't call it partnership. And with that, I would like to close. In the beginning, I said purchasing is more important than selling. I hope some of it came through, because in purchasing, you are the ones who are going to make the decision. When it comes to sustainability, and that's what Casey really emphasized, when it comes to the decision, you are the decision makers. When it comes to quality, to innovation, to sustainability. The guys that sell stuff, they only sell what they have, but you have a choice. And that is why purchasing is much more important. Thank you, obrigado, and waiting for your questions.